like last year. Every game I watch.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. We are back after the All-Star break. Unfortunately, the Blazers are back to their losing ways. Or maybe fortunately, Eric, because maybe it's time to tank as the Blazers lose tonight, 127-112 against the Denver Nuggets. And we're going to talk about this entire roster because it's been a minute since we've sat down and talked about a lot of the players that played tonight, and I just kind of want to refreshen things, where this team stands, and where we are right now, and where some of these players are at as we get geared up for 28, now 27 games after the All-Star break. What's going on, chat? Hopefully you enjoyed the All-Star break. Hopefully you have been doing well. And Eric, how have you been doing?
Well, not too bad. How about yourself, Tori? Hello, everyone in chat. Welcome to the show.
I've been good, man. I've been good. So, yeah, this game, not much to write home about. Scoot doesn't play. We're going to have to talk about that, okay? Because he plays Rising Stars game, does an interview after practice, no mention of anything, and then he's out with an adductor strain. Good old adductor strain. You remember when we got confused between abductor and adductor and that whole debate? Yeah, we get to deal with that again. So, great. Scoot doesn't play. There's not much intrigue when Scoot doesn't play, unfortunately, right now. You got to see Chris Murray start for the Blazers. I don't know who was their starting guard next to Anthony Simons, because you had to start in lineup with Simons, Chris Murray, Toumani Camara, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. So they go super big, and this game was strange because it felt like the Blazers could play offense or defense well, but never both at the same time. And never one of them well enough to be able to keep pace with Denver. They started off this game slow offensively. Once they start scoring, they start giving up a bunch of buckets to Denver. Just seemed like they couldn't put it together on both ends of the floor for any period of time in this game, and they end up losing. To be expected, the Blazers were 9.5-point underdogs going into this one. They lose by 15, but man, you had a couple good performances from Ayton, Anthony Simons. Delano Banton was good offensively, but other than that, really not much to write home about. But I'm happy to I'm happy that this is our first game in like 8 days, because this is the type of game that's always hard to recap and hard to really talk about, but I'm feeling ready to go, energized. I enjoyed the 8-day break or whatever it was, and I'm ready to get back to it. So, where do you want to start with this thing, man? Offensive and defensive end, any player? I will let you kick things off here.
Not necessarily a player. I just felt like the Blazers, well, they come out, they get off to like an 8-3 lead. Denver calls a timeout and then goes up 10, I think, at pretty quickly. And then from there, it just seemed like this game was never really a game. The Blazers kept it around like lower teens most of the game until the end of the third quarter, and kind of stuck around thinking maybe they could backdoor cover on the spread. But Denver blows it open at the end of that third quarter. And I thought Michael Porter Jr. was insane, your favorite player, Tori. He was really good in this game and just hit shot after shot. Against them, a lot of them were pretty heavily contested shots. And he had a big game and made it very difficult for us to try and make a comeback.
Yeah. Let's just start things off talking about roster construction. I think a game like this, especially without guards, really showcases how much offensive dead weight this roster has. And a lot of it's youth, so it's maybe acceptable. But I was just thinking about this, and we've talked about this a couple times, but there's just too many players in this lineup that can't shoot threes, dribble, or pass. Like, none of the three.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, like, and listen, DeAndre Ayton has been playing good, okay? Like, and he's a center, so it's fine. But he doesn't shoot threes, he doesn't really dribble, doesn't really pass, right? But that's fine from a center spot. Okay, whatever.
There was a player I thought he was going to shoot a three today. He looked like he was about to pull up, and then he put it on the ground. And I was like, darn it.
Yeah. But, like, that's fine. If basically my point is it's easier to have forwards and wings like that if you have a center like a Jokic who can dribble, shoot, pass, feed them easy shots around the rim when they cut, etc., right? But we don't have the center for that style of basketball. You look at the wings and the forwards right now, and there's just too many of them that don't shoot threes well, dribble, or pass. Matisse Thybulle right now is kind of driving me crazy. Tamani Kamara right now, offensively, he's been a little bit better lately, but like he airballed a 4-foot little like baby hook and then had an awful turnover, and he's not somebody you trust to shoot, dribble, or pass. Same thing with Jabari Walker. Same thing with Chris Murray. And I don't think all these guys are the future for this team by any means, but it looks really rough out there when you have a lot of guys in that mold. It makes things even harder on Anthony Simons, on Jeremy Grant. And Jeremy Grant tonight, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, so more assists than he normally has. But he's mostly just a scorer. Like, how many guys do you have in this lineup that you trust to make plays for others? Legitimately, the only guy is Anthony Simons. The second guy maybe is Delano Banton. He had a good offensive night, but I think that's, a big part of the problem when you have, no floor spacing and then nobody that can create, nobody that can really dime people up, dime cutters up, that sort of thing. It's just a lack of offensive skill, and the more we see games like this, the more I'm just going to start valuing in this upcoming draft guys that can do one or two of those things, because we got too many guys that don't do anything.
Yeah, and that's why it's always puzzling to me, the people who think that trading Simons is the answer for this team.
Yeah.
We need more guys that can create like him, not less guys. So I definitely don't want that to happen. Definitely miss Sharp. We've missed him for a while now, because he's one of those guys who has shown a little bit of creation, can shoot the ball a little bit, maybe not to the percentages he did at the end of last year for this year, but he's always a threat to hit a three if you leave him open. And Yeah, so I agree with you. It is kind of frustrating. I think they're doing a pretty good job of. I mean, it's not working because they're losing every game, but they're doing a pretty good job of scoring still with despite that the lack of stuff.
You want to know what it was today? 19 offensive rebounds for the Blazers. Absurd.
For sure. Yeah, Tamani and Chris were huge on the boards on the offensive rebounds, and yeah, I mean that helps when you miss a lot of shots and you're crashing the boards like that. But it also leads to not getting back on defense a lot too when you're sending everyone to the offensive boards. So I think that's been hurting us, even though it's been a point of emphasis all year. The Blazers broadcast keeps telling us that offensive rebounding is an emphasis going into the season. But I think it is definitely contributing to the lack of transition defense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do think there are some things that the Blazers are way too messy on. Defending in transition just seems like there's a lack of communication. They get cross-matched a little too easily. If you don't know what getting cross-matched means, it means getting matched up against somebody that isn't your guy. So, like, in transition, Anthony Simons has to take Aaron Gordon, and Jeremy Grant has to take, Jamal Murray if he was playing. That's an example of getting cross-matched. So, yeah, like, transition defense questionable, but, I mean, here's the thing. Like, with a lineup like this, you do have size. With Delano Banton being the backup point guard, he's 6'8", 6'9". They started 3 forwards and a center. There are going to be some good things with a lineup like that. I think at times they defend a little better. The first quarter they defended well, and then they kind of fell apart, and it's just Denver picking them apart, being a championship caliber team. But we have seen before the All-Star break, big lineups like this, especially with Banton in, they're able to switch a lot of things, which Chauncey likes to switch. And then with that size, obviously you're able to be a factor on the offensive glass. So there are some good things, but we're just getting to the point that, it is a rebuilding year, so none of this is surprising. I just want to reiterate it. Every lineup they throw out there right now is lacking too much of, like, multiple areas. And there will be a couple areas where they'll be solid and on any given night can be competitive because of those areas. Like with this lineup that I'm talking about, it's the offensive rebound, and it's usually better defense, at least when they're not playing a team like Denver. But they give up a lot in terms of not being able to hit a three. Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons are like the only shooters other than maybe Duopere that were in this lineup that you trust, right? And Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons both go 3 for 6, combined 6 for 12 from behind the arc. The rest of the team was a combined 2 for 13 behind the arc. No shooting around them, no spacing, and it creates for some very brutal offense where if the Blazers didn't get 19 offensive rebounds, they're probably right around 100 points. Not good. We've seen this big lineup struggle offensively while being able to defend. So going forward, the rest of the season is just going to be a learning experience, Eric, where we need guys that can do something well without giving too much up in other areas. Okay? Like, we need shooting, but we need a shooter that can be solid enough defensively. We need well-rounded players, but not just the well-rounded players like Chris Murray was a well-rounded player coming into the league. I didn't like the Chris Murray pick because I didn't think he was going to be good enough at any one thing, especially shooting the ball. I had question marks, and he's 0 for 4 from 3 today. But we need guys that can legitimately excel in a role that are solid elsewhere. And a game like this just kind of got me thinking about this upcoming draft. The Blazers got 4 picks right now. That's the type of archetype I really think they need to target.
Absolutely. Completely agree. We just need people who can play, right? I mean, sometimes it is just that simple, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm overcomplicating something that should be simple, but yeah, I don't want to bag on Chris Murray because he wasn't all that bad today. Played 35 minutes, 4 for 10 from the field. Had a couple impressive drives, including one on Aaron Gordon, where he had a little pound dribble. It was kind of a Scoot Henderson move, actually. Just not as quick as Scoot Henderson, of course. But 4 for 10, 0 for 4 from 3. But Chris Murray he's not spacing the floor. And he'll be wide open, the ball gets swung to him, and guys will close out on him, and he'll just slowly pump fake and then kind of dribble into the middle of the paint, but he's not being super aggressive in terms of trying to score. He kind of just like dribbles across the key and then kicks it out to someone else to let them do something. And it's just kind of a good example of like, he's solid, but you know, he's only shooting 32% from three this year. I think that was going into this game, so that's going to drop. And then everywhere else, he's like, okay, but he hasn't really made an impact, which he's a rookie, so that's fine, but he's also 23. He's going to be 24 next season. It's just too much in terms of guys that can't make it easier on Simons, make it easier on Grant, make it easier on Ayton, give more space to run pick and rolls, and then can't take any of the playmaking burden off of them. And that's Chris, that's Tamani, that's Jabari. It's okay to have like one, maybe even two guys like that in your rotation. Two is pushing it though. Going forward, the Blazers need to figure out like which one or two of those players are going to be a part of their rotation. And they're going to have to choose one to two of Chris Murray, Jabari Walker, Tamani Kamara, and Matisse Thybulle. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think that eventually will be the case. I don't know if it necessarily has to be this summer or not, but yeah, eventually you're probably going to have to pare them down, especially since, I mean, I'm not saying Jabari and Chris are the same player, but I mean, Jabari's obviously been better this year than Chris has, but I don't think you can get away with playing multiple of those guys. You can have one in your rotation maybe, but not two or three like you're saying.
Yeah, it's just too redundant.
Yeah.
It's just too redundant. If one of them was like a really good three-point shooter with question marks somewhere else, at least you could put him in the game and at least he could provide something different than the other complement of players.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Banton struggles to shoot the ball, but at least he can dribble a bit and can make a pass. Right? That's why I'm not including him in this conversation. I wish he could shoot better. He did make a 3 in this game, which was nice to see. But, like, at least he provides something a little bit different. A little bit different. It's, Tamani is the best defender out of the group. I like Tamani's defense better than Thybulle's. He's maybe the guy that I'd want to keep in the rotation. It's just tough because they don't got enough floor spacing right now. Ant has a game where he has 21 points, 8 assists, only 1 turnover, 8 for 15 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3 against Denver's defense that was loaded up to stop him with no floor spacing or shooting around him at all other than Jeremy Grant. I mean, as I said, the rest of the team went 2 for 13 from 3. One of those threes, Eric, was Matisse Thybulle banking in a 3 from the wing. Like, he missed it so bad he made it. So,
he's been so off lately, too.
So off. The only other 3, Delano Banton. He goes 1 for 3 from 3. So, just, it's a really tough position for Simons. He had a really good game. What'd you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got to find a way to try and, if we're going to win, I mean, obviously it's not important if we're not winning, but he's got to try to find a way to work on, and this is not something he should just know right now. I'm just saying, like, this is what he needs to do better of and learn each game moving forward, is how to still get your points and score with all this defensive attention. And I think he's learning, of course. I feel like he'll like miss a couple and then he's like scared to shoot very much. And I mean, shooters got to shoot, I'm not saying he needs to be a ball hog or anything like that, because I do like how he's passing the ball. But if you're always passing it to Ayton in the short roll and he's kicking out to shooters, and by the way, Ayton, I think, is doing a pretty good job in the short roll, a lot better than he did last year and at the beginning of this year. So that's improved a little bit too. So to your point, if we just had the shooting or someone, the cutting that a Denver has, or the type of offensive schemes that a Denver has, I feel like, I don't know, we probably could make some teams pay for the way they're guarding Anthony. But I think he's just got to learn, until that happens, how to take over despite the offensive attention.
Yeah, 100%. It's just kind of crazy, like, looking at Denver's side of things. They played Colin Gillespie 24 minutes in this game.
Dude, he was
and he's
cooking
7
us
for
at times.
9 from the field, 4 for 4 from 3, has 4 assists, no turnovers in 24 minutes. Like, 18 points. I mean, he comes in, he knocks down some threes, he handles the ball, he passes the ball a little bit. I mean, does all 3, which he's a point guard, so you'd expect a point guard to do more of those than, forward or front court players, but that's the thing is in Denver, right? I feel like they'll get the Toumani Camara type of player, and that player is Peyton Watson. And then, he didn't play much as a rookie, so, I'm patient with Toumani Camara. This isn't like any criticism of Toumani Camara, but Peyton Watson has become an elite defensive player, but he's also knocking down threes well enough. He's hitting like 34 to 35% of his threes, somewhere in that range. Was 1 for 2 from 3 tonight. He killed us in the 2 matchups prior to this that we played Denver, and he's a second-year player, right? So, but his 3-point percentage improved. That's where, Jabari Walker's done some good things this year, but he hasn't improved shooting the 3 ball at all, and that's disconcerting to me because Jabari Walker in college was a much better shooter than Peyton Watson. Much better shooter than him. Peyton Watson got drafted higher than him because of his immense defensive upside and physical tools and all that. But Jabari Walker coming into the league, I thought was going to be a much better shooter than Peyton Watson. And now Peyton Watson's a noticeably better shooter than Jabari Walker. It's just kind of strange.
Yeah, Jabari's 3-point shooting is definitely the most disappointing part about his game. You would think he'd be more 3-and-D than he is. And that's definitely something. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility he works on that. I think last summer, you can tell it was more about getting his body in a little better physical condition to handle the NBA. And I think he did that. And now this summer, maybe you can work more on stuff like your shooting and things like that.
I mean, he just should have been working on it pretty consistently after how rough he shot the ball last year, though.
Well,
it's an easy thing to work on, so I'm just kind of confused,
But, I mean, obviously he's working on it, and, everything says that he's a good worker. I'm just saying, I think it was more about just... I'm not saying he didn't work on 3. I'm saying I think his main focus last season was trying to get his weight more in check, and I think that helped him a lot this season. So if he can continue to do that without having to put a huge effort into that, I think he can just focus solely on that 3-point shot this summer, and I think it should hopefully get a little better, but who knows?
Yep. Man, and I think that's part of the reason why this team at times just isn't entertaining to watch, because the offense looks clunky, and it relies on, in this game, 3 guys making something happen, and that was Grant, Ayton, and Simons. They all collectively had decent games. Grant struggled to start the game, but finishes 9 for 21, 25 points and 21 shots, 4 assists, 3 steals, only 2 rebounds. This wasn't a good Jeremy Grant game, but he was our leading scorer tonight. He was at 25 points. It's just everything else. It's everything else, and that's where you obviously miss guys. You miss Scoot, you miss Shaden, you miss Brogdon, but going forward, how many of these guys should even be a part of the future? I feel like Toumani Camara, and then maybe you keep, Chris Murray's on a rookie contract, so they're going to have him going into next year. But long term, it's these guys' opportunity to prove that they should be a part of this organization long term, a part of this team long term. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And this is more so just to set up the next 27 games compared to just analyzing this game. But Jabari Walker has to shoot better from 3. He has to be more confident shooting from 3. He was playing well earlier this year, worked his way into a starting spot, then I feel like has only gotten worse. Chris Murray, he got 35 minutes tonight. Jabari Walker was questionable with an ankle injury, so Jabari Walker plays 14 minutes. I think it was just due to, at least I think it was an ankle injury, right? Walker's injury was the reason why he only played 14 minutes tonight. I assume it was nice to see Chris Murray get some run. but I'm just so tired of seeing players dribble the ball not to score or put pressure on the defense. Mm-hmm. Like Chris Murray, when he drives, sometimes he drives to score. That drive he had on Aaron Gordon was great, okay? A lot of times he drives just to like find somebody to give the ball up to. A lot of time when Jabari Walker is dribbling the ball, he's just looking to give the ball up to someone. Like, we need guys that can actually like attack the defense off the dribble. Tamari Kamara, when he handles the ball, is just dribbling it to look to give it up to someone. Matisse Thybulle, today he like tried to attack the rim and had some awful layup attempts. I wish he would just dribble the ball to give it up to someone. You know what I mean? So just way too much of that. And it's frustrating to watch.
I think, especially with Chris, it's just a case where he hasn't played a ton this season. So when he does get in the game, and tonight he's playing a majority of the minutes as a starter and with the starting lineup, other than the end when he stayed out there with the garbage time. Like, you don't, I don't know, a lot of young players have that mindset. I think Jabari has had this too, where you don't want to be the guy shooting too much when you're playing with the starters or taking on too much responsibility. Like, you're just supposed to be there as like a complementary piece. So I think that can mess, like, young guys can have a hard time adjusting to, like, Chris Murray, for example, in Iowa, he like had the ball like every possession and had to create a shot a lot and was the main focal point of their offense. And now he's just trying to fit in the scheme of a team that where he's like, you know, the 8th or 9th best player, maybe even worse than that. And so it's an adjustment period. I don't think he's there yet, but yeah, I mean, who knows? He could get there. He has looked, as he's gotten minutes this season, he's looked a lot better than he did at the beginning of the year. So
yeah,
maybe it's just a matter of just needing some more time. But
and I'm cool with that for Jabari, for Chris Murray, for Tamani.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not cool with that for Matisse Thybulle.
No, not at all.
He's in year what? 5?
He's in his 5th year. Yeah.
He's in his 5th year. Eric, he is so incredibly limited offensively.
Plus,
it drives me crazy.
What, 4 years in college? So like,
yeah, he's a veteran. He's as offensively limited as any player on this team. Doesn't matter if they're a point guard, small forward, or center. He is as offensively limited. His 3-point shot, he made a 3 today because the backboard saved him, right? So he goes 1 for 2 from 3 today. But we've just seen his shooting fall off a cliff. I don't trust him to be a good NBA 3-point shooter. The only thing offensively that he can even kind of do sometimes is knock down threes, but he's shooting 34%. Defensively, man, like, I still don't get it. He just overplays everything, and sometimes he gets a steal, but really we're going to play and pay a guy $11 million a year that's this incredibly offensively limited because he gets a steal a game. Because, like, on 5% of his defensive possessions, he makes a play. And probably on a higher percentage of defensive possessions, he's completely out of position because he's trying so hard to make a play. Just doesn't make sense to me. We should have never matched that contract. I am so ready to move on from Matisse Thybulle. It's palatable when he's knocking down threes, but man, it's just too much of, I don't know. He got 4 steals today, but it didn't feel like we were better defensively with him in the game.
Yeah.
And offensively, he creates major problems because he plays a shooting guard position or a small forward position. He plays a perimeter position, and he can't be trusted to handle the ball. He can't be trusted to attack the rim and make a layup. His layup attempts, he's basically just like falling out of control towards the baseline. We should not be paying him $11 million a year. If we didn't match that contract, we wouldn't have to worry about being in the tax to start this offseason. And it'd be one less guy that can't shoot threes well, dribble, or pass.
And, yeah, I felt like the time to trade him was like 38 days ago when his 3-point percentage still looked respectable. January 15th when he became trade eligible. And yeah, it would have been, they got to capitalize on that value. But this is, I think, one of the problems once again with this front office, and that's, I mean, I can't just blame this front office because this is pretty common around the NBA. But the really good GMs know when to maximize a player's value and when to hold on to someone because they're on the upswing. So, like, Matisse Thybulle shooting a great percentage from three earlier in the year, and everyone's like, oh, it's because Portland has, I forgot the word, but there's some word they use that, like Chauncey, what freaking word am I looking for, Tori? Like, not enabled, but like they give him the power to shoot threes, and that makes him a better shooter, you know. They always use a specific word, but anyways, good GMs find ways to maximize that value, and in a rebuild like the Portland Trailblazers are in, even though they don't want to admit it, empower. There you go. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah.
Yes, they empowered him. That's what they keep saying. Oh, Chauncey empowers his players to shoot threes. Stotts used to do that too, right? That's why Dame fixed players, because they were empowered when they're here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem right to keep those kind of players. And then you hear Cronin talk, and it's like he's happy with the where they're at and stuff. I almost feel like they thought Thybulle was better than he is, and that he's like a key piece moving forward. Well,
here's the thing. Cronin loves that archetype of guy who's like very offensively limited that can play some defense. And it's
but
not
it doesn't
even
really
like
translate to better defense.
Yeah, but it's like not even guys that are like truly top 10 defenders or anything like that. Like if it's, Nick Claxton, okay. All right. Yes, he struggles from the free throw line, doesn't shoot well. Like he's a center though, so it's a little different. But like he's elite defensively, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is it's like GP 2 weeks, Matisse Thybulle, Cam Reddish, right? Like Jared Vanderbilt they had interested. And Jared Vanderbilt is I think he's better than all the other options. But he's not a guy that you relied on to shoot, dribble, or pass. Cronin, for some reason, loves this archetype of player, right? And, like, Tamani Kamara kind of fits that archetype, but given the value you gave up for him, you gave up basically, like, he was a throw-in the DeAndre Ayton trade that they held out for, which was smart, because they could have just made the DeAndre Ayton trade without holding out for Tamani Kamara, right? So, like, It's not to say that, you should never have a guy of this archetype on the team. The thing is it should be a rookie or a second-year guy, because you can always find guys that have physical tools that can play some defense that need work offensively in the draft. You can always find that archetype of player. The problem is Cronin seems to love this player when it's like a 5-year vet, and it doesn't make sense.
Ryan Dunn, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm all out on Ryan Dunn. But yeah, like, you can find that type of guy. I don't understand why it's always like a 5-year vet that you're going to have to pay over $10 million. Or a 6'2 guard like GP2 who's going to play some 3 next to our other 6'3 guards. Just baffles my mind. I don't know why he's so in love with this archetype.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they need those type of players, more of them, and like they're just accumulating them.
It's just the problem is you can't value one thing too much. You got to value getting guys that are more well-rounded, that can play some defense. It's like we're so used to being so good offensively and so bad defensively that people are like, we just need the best defender possible no matter what. Okay, well, the other parts of the game still matter with that player, even if he's a good defender.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Dallas acquired someone who has been dominant on defense, and that's PJ Washington. They call it the PJL, uh, down in Dallas. It looks very. I saw a graphic that it wasn't quite like our Trenton Watford Krish graphic, but it had like a jail cell and all the players he's locked up so far since he's gotten to Dallas.
I missed the trend in jail, man.
That guy's been great for them, even though he's struggled offensively. But I mean, we know that's a guy who has skills to make baskets and can score and stuff like that. And he can shoot the three sometimes, but he just hasn't. But like, they identify a player like that, and then they also get someone that I personally have been talking for years about how Washington would trade him away for cheap because they don't want to pay him, and that's Daniel Gafford. And I don't know how many times we've talked about him on this show. It feels like 100. And so they add guys who like not only play defense but are like actually contributing to both ends. And it's just frustrating to watch teams do that, especially a team like Dallas who had very limited assets last offseason but still managed to add several players. And then they have limited assets during this season and still managed to make two of the best moves at the trade deadline.
Yeah. And obviously they're in a different team building mode than we are in, but
yeah, of course.
That can apply to rebuilding teams in terms of what you're looking for in young players, right? And this team brought in Matisse Thybulle and then matched the contract on Matisse Thybulle this offseason when they were entering an era without Dame. That was a young team's era, right? And then they kept Matisse Thybulle past the deadline. And I honestly fully expect them to keep Matisse Thybulle into next season and keep playing him 20 to 25 minutes a game. And it's because Cronin likes that archetype. I don't think it matters if they're rebuilding or not. He likes having that archetype of player. That archetype of player doesn't do enough offensively. Matisse Thybulle doesn't make anything easier on this team offensively. And honestly, today they were kind of playing 4-on-5 with him on the court. I mean, at times, given, like some of the offensive players they have out there, they're playing 3-on-5. And it's frustrating to see how people talk about Anthony Simons, especially, given that he's playing in a lot of lineups that have three guys that don't shoot threes and nobody else that can handle the ball or make a play for someone else. And the whole defense is geared up to stop Simons. And the second he forces a tough shot, people scream about how he's selfish. Like, it's baffling to me. So, yes, this is a big picture conversation. Yes, tonight they're missing guys that can do these things that we're talking about a lack of. But man, we have many roster spots with players that don't shoot threes well, don't pass, don't handle the ball. And contending teams have very few of those players, Eric.
Yeah, well, honestly, Ryan Repair is also one of those archetype players. I mean,
He can handle the ball a little bit though, but he's 19. Maybe. Yeah,
I mean, we haven't really seen it in the NBA yet. I'm just saying,
that's what I'd want it to be. If it's somebody that's not going to be playing, somebody that maybe we have a little hope can be a decent shooter and can handle the ball. He's 19. He moves well with his dribble, and he's the type of guy that has defensive upside to a level that I don't think Chris Murray, Jabari Walker does.
Yeah, but that's what
I'd rather
saying.
keep him over Chris Murray and Jabari Walker.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's the same archetype, but he has like higher end potential than those guys. So that's why when people say like, "Oh, why do you care about the 14th guy on the roster playing or not?" Like we've been crying about it all season. It's because he has a chance to be different than those guys potentially. Now, it might not happen. It might just be that he's always kind of limited offensively or is never consistent shooting the ball or whatever. But I think he has a chance, and I think that's kind of what Cronin goes for when he goes for these guys. He's hoping that the offensive part, like a Jabari Walker, can hit the three. Chris Murray can do so many different things offensively that he's not a negative on that end. But like I think Repair is the only one that Cronin so far has a chance of really busting out of that mold in terms of just being a limited role player.
Yep. Yep, agreed. So, going forward, man, like, as we really ramp up talking about the draft, we get into March Madness, like, it's finding guys that can do multiple things, plus maybe have sneaky upside. And I hope Cronin this offseason moves away from his love for this archetype of player. If Olshey loved 6'3" guards that could only play offense, Cronin loves 6'3" to 6'6" wings that can only play defense. So
we're not even good defensively. So
that's the thing is, except they're not like elite defenders either.
Yeah.
If we had prime Tony Allen out there, okay, that's one thing.
Right.
But the NBA becomes more about spacing and taking advantage of that spacing. That's why offense is much better than it was even 5 years ago. Having a guy that can't space and can't do much offensively is even more glaring. Like, it would be hard to play Tony Allen in today's NBA. Harder to play him today than it was 6, 7, 8 years ago. So.
Yeah, or you have I don't know, because like Tony Allen on Denver, I think would be fine. Like,
yeah, it just takes having the best passing, most skilled center in NBA history.
Or maybe even like to a lesser extent, like, I don't know, Houston or the Kings or something with, I don't know. I think you just got to incorporate cutting into it. Yeah. But spacing the floor, it makes it tough when you have someone that can't shoot the ball.
Yeah. It's wild because, like, Uprise today, 13 minutes, 3 for 10 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. He doesn't even have a good offensive game. He did have 2 blocks and a steal, though, which, normally he's not making defensive plays like that, right? He's not in there for his defense. But, like, they still respected his three-point shot, and he's a +5 in 13 minutes where he's 3 for 10. But I think part of the reason why Portland, tonight at least, was able to outscore Denver with Uprise off on the court when Uprise wasn't even playing well offensively is because he could space the floor and bring that big man out of the paint. And at this point, he's been game planned enough to the point where teams know that he's a shooter and you got to guard him. Because when he first started playing this year, teams would just leave him wide open. He'd knock down threes. Teams respect his three-point shot more, and he's able to space the floor and drag the center out of the paint even when he's not making shots. And it makes it easier for other things to happen offensively.
Mm-hmm. I mean, gravity is one of the most overlooked kind of skill sets in the NBA. I feel like a lot of people who don't like creators, they don't understand the gravity of it, but
yeah, gravity matters. You want to do an early tankathon?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Let's do an early tankathon. I'm gonna pull up tankathon here in a second, and we will take a look at the latest odds. Unfortunately, Golden State beat Charlotte today. I think, right? Golden State was up 11 at halftime. Yeah.
Yep.
That would have been huge for Charlotte to get, but Charlotte won yesterday. Yeah.
By the way, Nurk is no longer the last player in the NBA to have a 5x5 game.
Yeah, that is Wemby, huh?
Yeah, Wemby did tonight. Almost a 5x5 triple-double.
And he's also not the last player in the NBA to get punched in the face. Because there was punches. I don't know if any of the punches landed, but there was a fight today between New Orleans and Miami.
Yeah, we got into it with Butler and Najee Marshall.
Yeah.
I think Najee Marshall had Butler around the neck. And then, at the end of the Hornets Warriors game, there was a scuffle too.
Man, I didn't see that scuffle. There's been a lot of fights in college basketball this year too. Like there was a crazy one with what was it, Incarnate Word and like Texas A&M Commerce or whatever it was, like big old brawl after a game. I don't know. It feels like basketball players are a little bit more hostile towards each other in the past year. It just seems like there's more college basketball fights this season. And NBA, you've had some weird things happen. I don't think at a higher rate than other years, but the Draymond thing, that fight today was like a legitimate scuffle. It wasn't just a shoving match like we normally see. So, I mean, especially with the Blazers tanking, more fights. Fights are kind of fun, as long as nobody gets hurt, right? Little scuffles like that, kind of entertaining. I'm not complaining.
I kind of like scrappiness in fights. So. Yeah, as long as no one gets hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's other teams, it's a little nicer. Like, I don't want to see Scoot get suspended for 5 games because he punched Draymond in the face or something, even though it'd be pretty, full circle for Draymond. God.
I don't know. Maybe he needs to rest his adductor muscle.
Yeah, true. We should have played him. Anyway, I don't know where we're going with this. Never mind. I don't advocate for violence, chat, okay? Disclaimer.
Why does the Scoot statement today or by the Blazers seem eerily like the last few times something has ended up being very serious? It's like, I don't know, it's so frustrating not trusting an organization at all.
It feels like the Sharp thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sharp's ramping back up to play. He's going to be ready soon. And then all of a sudden, he's had a setback and he's having surgery now. And why didn't I think Jay Crowder might have had that surgery? But why does it seem like it's only Blazers that have adductor strains?
I don't know. Something in the water here. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, maybe we check for every little thing to the point where we're telling Chauncey, yeah, you've had this injury on your wrist since 2009. Yep, time to get surgery. Because Chauncey literally just got surgery on his wrist for an injury he said he had since, like, his playing days. So, I don't know what it is.
Doing that in the middle of the season if it's been that long.
You know what it is? Let me find it. Hold on. I gotta find something because it encapsulates our injury luck perfectly. Anyway.
Yeah, we have a core muscle surgeon on retainer now. We're just giving him more clients.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
I'm worried that, like, I don't think it's necessarily bad to get the surgery, but there's just not a lot of data on it, so I'm worried it's going to zap some of these young players' athleticism. It's like it kind of did with Nas. Yeah.
Man, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go there. That's scary.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping not. Like, knock on wood, man.
Yeah. Definitely need to knock on wood because I found the meme, and it's fitting because this meme literally encapsulates our battles with injuries with our young players. This is very fitting because it has another one of my teams. It has a Mariners hat on the guy, but yeah. This is basically where we're at right now. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, man. Hopefully the lottery will give us a reward for our struggle that we've dealt with.
Sorry, I have a friend at work,
and
he likes the 49ers and Blazers. And a couple weeks, or it was like right after the Super Bowl, whenever that was, he came up and said, Eric, I think we might be cursed. It's like, heard that one.
Yeah. Just add Gonzaga, lost 2 national championship games in the last 7 years. Add that on top of it. Or if you're a Ducks fan too, because the Ducks have lost a couple. We're cursed, man. Mariners, like the only Pacific Northwest team I'm not a fan of is the one that's won a championship too, which is the Seahawks. Like, we are cursed up. Me and you and anybody else that's a Niner / Gonzaga / Duck / Blazer fan / Mariner fan. It's brutal out here. Anyway. Let's simulate this thing. Or let me take a look at this. Golden State's only a half game back of LA, Eric. Because they beat LA yesterday.
I think momentarily they were officially in the 10th spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've fallen back to 11th. Or no, that'd be the 10th spot still, right?
Yeah,
they're
still in the 10th. Yeah. But they are 3.5 games away from 12th. Like, they have separated themselves from this tier that they were in earlier in the season, unfortunately.
It wasn't even earlier in the season. It was like 2 weeks ago.
I know. They've won 8 out of their last 10. See, like, there is a point, like, 3 to 4 weeks ago where there's a few people that were saying, like, see, I told you that Golden State pick would be good because I said when we got it, like, yeah, that's probably a mid to late first, right? And they're sitting there at like 9th, 10th. The people say, see, I told you so. I'm going to blame those people for jinxing it because you're counting your eggs before they hatch. Since then, 8 in 2 over their last 10, won 3 in a row. They're back, Eric. And you know what it is? Kaminga has finally panned out for him.
I mean, you say that, but I think it was you that was saying that pick's like guaranteed to be in the 20s, right? And people are then coming at you like, you said that pick was going to be bad, right?
Yeah, if I said guaranteed, I misspoke because nothing's guaranteed in the NBA, obviously. Like, I expected that pick to be in the 20s.
But I mean, look.
It was late. It was more so, that was me misspeaking, which happens. Yeah. But it was more so like late teens to 20s because you expect Kaminga, maybe Moses Moody, right? Like, you expect them to maybe take a step. They still got the same core. They just re-signed Steve Kerr to an extension. They still have him. Like, they still have the core of what was a dynasty. Yeah. So you don't expect them to be in the lottery unless they get injured, right? And obviously, if every good player on their team gets injured, they could have the number 1 pick. But it's surprising to see how much they struggled earlier in the season. But lately, they've looked like a legitimate playoff team. And that's because Kaminga gives them something with that core that they haven't really had with how well he's been playing lately. Man. And the thing is, they're 29 and 26. Normally, that would be like the 17th, 18th pick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look, I can't see lower than 19 on your screen, but they're only 3 games out of 19th, like passing the Kings there. And Dallas, they're only 3.5 games behind Dallas.
They're 4 games.
4 games behind New Orleans.
Out of 22.
Like, all of a sudden, like, it might not be that out of the realm of possibility that pick is in the lower to mid-20s,
Eric, they're as far... Remember when they were 11th? Look at Utah, lost 5 in a row. Golden State wins 3 in a row. They're as far out of 11th as they are at a 22nd right now.
Yeah.
So, this is not going too well, man. That's not going too well. Unfortunately. It's going to come down to play-ins. I expect them to play their way into the playoffs. If they're the 8th seed, then... Or if they're the 9 or 10 seed and play their way in, then they'll probably be like the 18th, 19th pick.
Yeah, maybe.
What's crazy is Phoenix is 8th now because they lost to Houston tonight and lost last night.
Yeah,
We need to start looking at standings board because the standings in the West is insane.
Yeah, well, it changes daily, so...
Yeah. A lot of quality teams. But you remember that Nuggets fan that was being a jerk that I banned this stream?
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just found out he's banned because he was being toxic and we've warned him. Celebrating beating the Portland Trail Blazers. Come on, man. you got better things to celebrate than being the Portland Trailblazers. But he's like, Portland's making the play. He always says this. It's just this Nuggets fan that keeps coming to our chat. Always says Portland's making the play-in. 14 games out of the play-in. 14 games.
Also, when you're talking about nothing's guaranteed, Rich has a counter to that we're locked in at the 5th pick. So.
Okay, it's time to simulate the lottery. Okay, at 14, Lakers to New Orleans. At 13, Portland gets Golden State's pick. At 12, Chicago. At 11, Houston to OKC, which means Utah moves up again. We did a tankathon on yesterday's stream, and Utah moved up. So Utah gets lucky. At 10 is Atlanta. At 9 is Brooklyn to Houston. At 8 is Toronto to San Antonio. At 7 is Memphis. At 6 is your Portland Trailblazers. At 5 is San Antonio. So San Antonio gets 5 and 8. At 4 is Charlotte. At 3 is Detroit. Utah won the lottery yesterday, actually, moving up from 11th all the way to number 1. Will they do it again? At number 2 is Utah. And at 1 is Washington. Literally, last stream was Utah at 1 and Washington at 2. So we talked about that I said this, okay? I'm not going to put words into your mouth, but I said that might be the one scenario where Sar falls to 3. Or no. It was Utah and San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Yeah. It was Utah and San Antonio, where it's like I could see both those teams. Like Utah, I think wants a wing. San Antonio wants a point guard. And normally you don't draft for fit at the top of this draft, but I think the top of this draft is weak enough that you might see teams drafting for fit, because there isn't like a head and shoulders clear cut top player. But I mean, a team could have Zachary Ricochet as the number 1 player on the board, where they draft him no matter if they need a wing or not. That's the thing with the top of this draft, is you could still see somebody be the number 1 pick that like shocks people just because a team is higher on them and they end up with the number 1 pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
This draft is going to be absolutely fascinating. The rumors in the build-up to draft night is going to be insane.
The smoke screens, the secret workouts.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be something else. Well, I just simulated again, and you see it's 2 top 4 picks.
Dude, are we talking about enough about how crappy Brooklyn is? 21 and 34.
Bro, you remember the conversations with Nets fans last year where we like argued with a bunch of them on like the direction of their team, and I was saying like they're like, we can't rebuild because we don't own our picks. And it was like with Mikal Bridges, they were like 13 and 27 or something like that last year. It was like it was something. Maybe it was like 9 and I forget what the record was, but it was something where they only won like a third of their games if you included playoffs with Mikal Bridges. They get swept in the first round, like they weren't even all that competitive. And then they don't do anything to get better, and it's just like, what, you're hoping Mikal Bridges takes another leap? Because if anything, his play after the All-Star break was him overachieving a little bit, a la Josh Hart after he got traded to Portland after the All-Star break type of thing, right? Obviously, Mikal's better, but we've seen players get traded at the deadline and then overachieve in their new situations, and then the following year go back to more what they are offensively. I mean, we've seen it with Matisse Thybulle, Eric. We've seen it with Matisse Thybulle in his three-point shot. So, never made sense for Brooklyn to ever look at it like, we can't rebuild because we don't have our own picks, because they weren't good enough to have the mindset of like, yeah, we're going to compete. And they didn't, and seemingly weren't willing to take any risks to make this team a legitimate playoff team. So now they're stuck. Their pick has the 8th best odds of being number 1. They don't get it. And they did nothing to choose any sort of direction. And they're a mess.
I had someone ask me about a scenario, and I'm actually kind of intrigued by it now. You know how we talked about how the Blazers are in the tax this summer, and they're likely going to have to dump Thibault or Robert Williams for nothing just to get under the tax. Hopefully they don't have to attach an asset, all that, yada, yada, yada. What if it's the Blazers are planning on going after a player and they're going to use Brogdon and the 2 lottery picks to do so?
Yeah, you're thinking about McHale or something?
Yeah, the player that he when he proposed that, it instantly popped in my mind, Mikal Bridges. Even though he's 27.
I've thought about that, actually. I just haven't talked about it.
Because he makes, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's really close to Brogdon's next year.
Yeah.
So if you take out the 2 lottery picks from our salary, I think we're under the cap with that one trade, basically. I mean, I still have to.
But then you know what the question becomes then with that scenario, Eric? Did Portland actually offer 3 for McHale last year? Because then why would they do it this year in a worse draft at the top, even if it's both lottery picks plus Brogdon, if they were being offered Scoot? You know?
Yeah.
Like I know things change, but man, that would be that would just be crazy as a narrative, let alone just as a move. I mean, could this team contend in the next 5 years if they did that trade for McHale? I don't trust that.
Oh, you mean now? I thought you were asking about.
No. Like if the Blazers traded both lottery picks for McHale, you know what you'd be doing? You'd be saying, okay, Shaedon Sharpe or Scoot Henderson has to become the number 1 player on a championship team.
And one of them has to come off the bench, most likely.
Yeah, or Anthony Simons or McHale. It's really tough to bet on any of those guys becoming the number 1 player on a championship team. If you have more shots at young talent that has high potential, then you're more likely to find a number 1 player on a championship team. But you're basically saying, we're not going to be drafting at the top of the draft again. We're going to be going for the playoffs next year, okay? And we think this core is good enough to contend someday. But in order to be good enough to contend, somebody has to be the best player on that contending team. Who is that going to be? Can we have enough faith in Scoot Henderson to be the best player on a championship team someday still? I don't know.
I mean, it was drafted as that. But,
yeah.
I don't know. Can you... I don't think you can, but if you had 4 2s instead of 1 really good one, is that, like, possibly good enough? I don't know.
You'd basically be trying to be the Pistons from when Chauncey won it all. But I mean, like, look at OKC, right? They take their jump. They got SGA. Look at Minnesota, right? They took a leap this year because Anthony Edwards took a leap this year, right? Like, he looks like a player that is a number 1 option on a contender.
Those guys have defensive bigs, though. And that's the key, in my mind, to making it work with lesser talent, is you have to have some sort of really good defensive rim protection to slow games down and that kind of stuff. But, like, I mean, Chet's been really good defensively, and of course, like, Gobert's one of the best big man defenders in the league. So, yeah, I don't know. And, like, you know, Detroit had Sheed and Ben Wallace and stuff. Ben Wallace is one of the best defenders of all time. So, like, you probably still need that hammer defender at the 4 or the 5.
Yeah.
People are saying Sarr, but in this scenario, we traded any chance we had of Sarr.
I mean,
I don't think we traded if we get number 1, but
You'd still have the Boston and Milwaukee picks down the line. You'd have to hope that one of those becomes good. That's the only way. That's the only recourse you have to that not panning out. That's just extremely risky for no reason. Because I still think you'd have to have Scoot become like a top 15-ish player in the league. And if he's going to become a top 15-ish player in the league, it still makes more sense to just be patient, stock up on top tier lottery young talent that fits his timeline, and be patient with the process because he's only barely 20 years old right now. It makes no sense to trade young players for a 27-year-old and then try and accelerate that process. And you're basically putting more... It's more crucial for Scoot to become a top 15 player. Whereas if you're drafting the top of the draft this year, maybe next year, maybe we get lottery luck, etc., you're at least hedging your bets a little bit that Scoot might not be that guy, and that maybe you're going to find that guy with one of these top draft picks. So it's just super risky. Like, I would feel very uneasy about that type of move. It makes sense from a fit standpoint. I really like McHale. Like, people would say, see, look at this genius Joe Cronin. We're going to win a lot of games next year. We're going to be the next year. We're going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves next year.
You got out of the tax idiots.
You know what I mean? But man, it's just, at this stage in a rebuild, I just feel like it's too risky.
Yeah, I don't know if it's risky. I mean, this would be...
Because they're not doing it unless you have like a top 3 pick, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Top 3, 4 pick.
If you
Like,
have
they're not trading them for like the 8th pick. In
4 and 13. Let's say you had 4 and 13. And Malcolm. Maybe Malcolm goes like a third team where they get some other sort of value. I don't know.
It's risky. It's risky. It just, if I had full confidence that Scoot Henderson was going to be a top 15 player at some point, then it'd be a little less risky. But still, I'd still just be patient and just take shots in the draft and find the next McHale through the draft.
Yeah.
And he's only going to be making, 30% of the money on a rookie contract.
Yeah.
I just don't... I don't want to... you know what my biggest fear is, Eric? And chat should know my biggest fear. My biggest fear is short-circuiting the rebuild and then getting stuck in the middle.
Yes. But at the same time, that seems to be what this organization wants to do,
Yeah, I could definitely see them making a splash move out of nowhere from McHale, man.
I just feel like when Cronin says that they targeted a couple players, not picks, I just have this funny feeling they're gonna make a run at McHale this summer.
It's very possible. I mean, is there any other players that come to mind?
Not really. I mean, if before the OG trade, maybe OG, but obviously that's probably gone. I don't know. Like,
you know what though? I feel like maybe they'd give up Sharp in a deal for McHale. If they're making him like Anthony's McHale's guy. Anthony is the best out of all the guards right now. If they're accelerating the timeline, Anthony's still young enough to be a part of the future, but he's the best player right now if they're accelerating the timeline, okay? Obviously, like, they ain't moving on from Scoot. And I don't think that's realistic at all. I don't think that's realistic at all. That they trade Scoot for McHale now. No way.
Dude, that would be...
There's no way. That's not happening. Like... They have a better chance, in my opinion, of trading for Dame this offseason.
I think if we traded Sharp, I think that's a way to get people to turn on Cronin.
I think they're much more likely to trade Sharp for McHale than Scoot. Like,
yeah.
But here's the thing. You got your point guard in Scoot. You got your shooting guard in Ant's boys with McHale, right? if they're trading for McHale to play the 3, then
Well-
if they actually really wanted McHale, then then I feel like there's a chance that they'd be willing to trade Sharp for him because Sharp wouldn't factor into that starting lineup equation, right?
Well, what if couldn't you make the same argument for Scoot and have Anthony be the 1, Sharp the 2, and Mikhail the 3?
I just think Cronin loves Scoot too much. I think it's the same thing as, last offseason, especially considering like Scoot's trade value doesn't match up with his long-term upside, and he has a great work ethic, and he has a great attitude, and you still need like a vocal leader on that team going forward. Like, he makes more sense than Sharp for multiple reasons.
Yeah, maybe.
He's a year further down the line getting paid.
Yeah, but wouldn't Cronin have the same ties to Sharp that he does Scoot?
I think if they're trading for a 3, they're more likely to trade Sharp.
Yeah.
Than Scoot. Scoot has much more. Scoot has more upside. Scoot has more upside than Sharp.
I'm gonna give Rich a new video idea. The Cronin press conference this summer after we trade Scoot about how there was just too much pressure here in Portland and he had to do it for Scoot's sake.
Eric, if you had to,
dude, you could not hear Cronin say that. Like, we really love Scoot a lot, but it was just too hard for him here, being the guy who replaced Dame, and
I could not.
I could
actually not see him. I could not see him saying that. I could not, because the one thing he's willing to do is like not make moves, and he loves Scoot. That's why they chose him over Dame. Like, I don't know. I think
he did last summer. I don't know if he still 100% feels the same way.
I think they do. Because he's improved so much. It's so hard to give up on him, especially because he's going to work his ass off. And he is the type of player that like potentially has a killer mentality. Like, all the intangibles, I think Scoot has over Sharp. And I think the organization, I'm just completely speculating, but I think the organization would value Scoot more for those reasons. I think if the organization had to bet on which player out of Scoot and Sharp is better long term, they would bet Scoot. I'm going to make that a chat poll.
But if they had to make that same choice between Anthony and Scoot, who would they choose? Why would
that have to be the choice though in this hypothetical?
I'm just saying maybe they think Anthony and Scoot have to be split up. Maybe they think Sharp's fine playing with either one.
If they think Anthony and Scoot have to be split up, then I don't think they're making a trade for McHale. Then I don't think they would trade for McHale. Because I think it kind of goes against a McHale trade.
Why?
Because a McHale trade is accelerating the timeline. I don't think they're willing to give up on Scoot for McHale. Okay? But if you're accelerating the timeline, it doesn't make sense to get rid of the best guard that you currently have. Because you're going towards a younger timeline in the backcourt with two guards that aren't as good as Anthony Simons yet. So it makes no sense to accelerate the timeline while simultaneously pushing it back.
But that's what I'm saying. They could choose Scoot over, and they could choose to trade Scoot over Anthony in that situation.
Bro, this poll is insane. What? I've never been this shocked at a chat poll in my life.
I think you're not factoring in how much people love Sharp.
I mean, wow. Yeah, Shay Shay's cool, man, but so is Scoot. Like, What would you answer to this chat poll, Eric?
I don't know in terms of the way you're asking it.
Which player do you think will be better long term? Let's say 5 years from now. Which player do you think?
I don't know, man. I think it's pretty close.
It's a tough question, which is why I thought the answers would be more even. But
Yeah.
if you had to pick,
Yeah, I'll pick Sharp.
really,
Yeah.
I'm taking Scoot, man. I'm taking Scoot.
I like both, so it's not.
Yeah, I like both too. I trust Scoot's work ethic / mentality a little bit more.
That's fair.
And I think his playmaking will be, like his passing a couple years from now will be elite. Like, top 5 passing guard in the league. I just trust him to figure it out. It's crazy because for some reason, Scoot has a lot of haters in this fan base. And I don't know if it's because the Blazers effectively chose him over Dame. Because everybody that watches us knows that me and you love Dame, wanted to build around him, wanted to give him a shot, even last offseason. Still wanted to give him a shot to win. Even if it backfired, we were willing to live with that for Dame. Doesn't mean I'm going to hate Scoot. Here's the thing, Eric. Me and you watch pretty much every game. How many of these people that come in here lately and talk trash about Scoot, do you think it's because they haven't watched the team recently and haven't watched Scoot recently? Do you think there's an element of that? Because I feel like talking with some Blazer fans on Twitter, some Blazer fans even in chat, I feel like people are still...
Well, like 60% of them aren't watching.
Yeah. Well, I feel like people are still talking about Scoot like it's December when he's played generally well for a rookie the last, month or so. Maybe the last 3 weeks or so. Like, the last 12 games of his. Maybe it's 13, maybe it's 11, whatever. But recently, he's been playing much, much better. He's improved a ton over the course of the season. And I feel like some people aren't giving him credit for that.
Yeah. I think most people are giving him credit. It's more just like national people who don't pay attention and just look at it like his true shooting percentage still sucks, you know.
But I mean, look in chat. We had a comment. Scoot peaked in the G League. Scoot is Kendall Marshall on steroids. Like, I don't know. There's just always comments like that. I don't know. Who are you typing to?
No one. Mm-hmm. I'll let you know if I...
Shout out to Mono Poman. $3.50 donation says, Scoot has a lot of potential. He's very good. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate you. Yeah. I've been higher on Scoot throughout the entire season than it feels like a lot of people in this fan base are. I feel like national media especially overreacted to Scoot's struggles at the start of the season. Like, I feel like I've been more patient with him, even though I'm Mr. Negative, right? According to people, you know? But, man, I think people got to be more patient with Scoot. I think Scoot's going to be great. Now, is he going to be the number one player on a championship team? It's hard to have a ton of confidence in that happening. But that's the case with both Scoot and Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like, if Sharp had Scoot's mentality on the floor, it would make it harder not to pick him. You know?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that means something.
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't... Just because you say you're overly determined to dominate or dominating or whatever doesn't make you a better player.
Yeah,
I like the mindset.
But like we've talked about with Sharp, you know, he'll have stretches where he just completely disappears, doesn't even seem to like really want the ball, doesn't even seem to like really want to make a play, like defensively off times where he just kind of floats, and Scoot has those times too, but like offensively, like Scoot seems to want to make a play. He seems to have more of a killer mentality, even with his struggles. And Sharp, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
He'll play well for one quarter and then like just seem disinterested the next quarter. And I'm not saying he actually is. It's just I just want to see him like take over a little bit more, especially when this team had injuries, especially when he had a little bit more responsibility. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the same time, it's not like Sharp has had many opportunities and he's still learning a lot of things that maybe he needs to learn in order to bring that mentality out of him.
Yeah, because he didn't play in college. Then his first year, he's not supposed to play much, but ends up playing a little more than people thought. And then coming to this year, he was a little disappointing this year, but I don't know if you can necessarily say that's who he is or anything.
Yeah. So like it's not an indictment on Sharp in any means. It's just a question for me where it's not a question for Scoot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like Scoot the last 12 games is better in my opinion than Sharp was at this point last season. If we're just basing Scoot off like his last 12 games.
Yeah.
JD says Torrey might have forgotten Sharp's stretch run last season when he was the main guy. The thing is, Scoot hasn't even gotten that opportunity to have that stretch run yet because that happened in March and April when they started tanking.
Yeah.
Before that, yeah, that completely changed people's perceptions of Sharp. I think there's a good chance that if Scoot gets that same opportunity with the tanking team, that he completely changes the perception around him too, where people get extremely hyped about Scoot and this poll is different 3 months from now. That's the thing. I'm trying not to read too much into Sharp's stretch run in this conversation. This is just a fun debate, but I'm trying not to read too much into Sharp during that tanking stretch because Scoot hasn't gotten that opportunity yet. Think about Sharp and his play like in February of his rookie year. JD says Sharp was made to take a day off last season to not disrupt the tank. Yeah, and you couldn't see them doing the same thing with Scoot? Taylor says, that's true, but until I see that stretch from Scoot, I'm not going to assume he can do it. I think you've seen signs that he is capable of that type of stretch in the last 12 games. So, we'd make the play-in if Sharp was playing. What are we saying? We're 14 games out of the play-in. And Sharp has played. When Sharp has played, we're below 500. The last team in the play-in is 3 games above 500. What are we saying? What are we talking about? Rich says, Sharp needs structure but also challenge. Needs a coach who will put responsibility on him. I like challenging him defensively more so than we've done this year. JP Savvy says, honestly, I don't want Scoot to become a 25-point per game scorer. 20 points and 10 assists would be perfect because Ant and Sharp take over the scoring. I think that's who Scoot becomes ultimately. I think he becomes a 20 and 10 guy that shoots like decent enough from 3 to get people to respect it, becomes a better finisher at the rim. I expect him to take a jump there next year. He's doing a good job getting to the free throw line. I mean, that's what stars do. They get to the line, right? And for a rookie, Scoot gets to the line. Now, when he doesn't get to the line, he misses a lot of shots at the rim because of how much he's seeking out contact. But that's where I think he'll learn when to seek out contact and when to finish. Because right now he's just trying to seek out contact. But most rookies don't drive to seek out contact the way Scoot is driving to seek out contact. And that's why Scoot, for a rookie, is shooting a lot of free throws. As Scoot continues to get more of a reputation for getting to the foul line, because we know referee based off reputation, I think he could get to the line even more. I think in his prime, Scoot Henderson is getting to the line 8 times a game. And the thing is, he shot free throws decently this year. He's above 80%. So I think everybody just looks at the finishing numbers without taking the getting to the free throw line thing into account. And he just has to learn when to seek out contact, how to finish in certain situations that he's not. But that's where more reps. I don't know. He's gotten a lot better this year. Apparently he has a phenomenal work ethic. I trust him. Hopefully both these guys can become number 1 players on championship teams, and then we won't have any problems. Then we can trade for Mikal Bridges. But if we did that trade, both lottery picks and Brogdon for Mikal, Eric. Let's say the picks were what you said they were, 4 and 13?
Yeah.
Would you be happy? Would you be upset? Would you be would you be worried about the risk? Maybe not upset, but worried about the risk, the downside of it?
I would understand the trade like you. I don't know. I'd be disappointed that we got someone like that after Dame. But yeah, Mikal, he turns 28, I believe, in August. I think he's just a little too old for what I would trade that package for. So I'm probably a little disappointed.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
It's like the Rocco trade to me, probably. Yay, we got Rocco, but I'm sad how much we gave up for him, and I really liked players in that range of that draft. And so, yeah, especially if Cody Williams or Tijon Salon go 4 or something, and then or Ricochet or whoever turns out to be a really good player and maybe even better than Mikal eventually.
Yeah. Dro says that's not happening. But as AJ said, it's a hypothetical. Also, Dro has said that's not happening before on things that actually ended up happening. So I don't know. You couldn't see this team making a massive trade for Mikal because viewership's down 50 to 60%, Dro? I could. I definitely could. This would be the offseason that this team actually trades for a player of that caliber. But, I'm not expecting it, but I wouldn't be completely shocked. Shout out to Don and Jay Tor with the $5 donation. Says, hey guys, big fan here. Is there a scenario where we keep Sharp and Scoot, both, but trade Ant? What would your reaction to that be? Obviously, it depends on what we trade Ant for, but is there a scenario where Ant gets traded this offseason, Eric? What are the odds?
I think there's scenarios. I'd be surprised with how much they think of him.
Yeah. I don't think he has enough of a market for them to trade him. I mean, they wouldn't even trade Brogdon this year's trade deadline, so I fully expect them to have the same mentality with Ant. And then shout out to Ron Elijah with a $5 donation. Says, going to my first Blazer game ever on Sunday. What are some good food places to crash at during halftime and other things to know of? Thank you, Ron, for the $5 donation. Chat, give Ron your best food places to crash at during halftime in Moda Center and help him out. I got Hawaiian nachos. It had pineapple on them. It was actually pretty good. Normally I don't eat at the stadium much, so I don't know of all the places, but there's some good food spots. Just be prepared to spend a lot of money because it is pricey in the stadium.
Yeah, there's lots of places that have like pulled pork nachos and stuff like that. Those are really good, except for they get really soggy towards the bottom, so they're kind of hard to eat. Like not at a table. You can't go wrong with the pizza either.
Dro says Tori Cronin is a donator. Dro, actually, I think Cronin is a guy that just follows what ownership tells him to do. And if ownership is telling him, we need more butts and seats, we need TV ratings to go up, what do you think his solution to that would be? Shout out to Ron Elijah, $2 donation, says, thoughts on new MLB uniforms? Thank you, Ron, for the donations. You should never, ever have see-through uniforms. And I can't believe it's like Fanatics plus Nike. How do you make that mistake? I can't believe that.
It's been a huge fail, man.
Disaster. Is that just for spring training, or is that for the MLB season?
I want to say it's with all their uniforms for the season. They need to fix it really quick.
And it's not even just that. It's like the name and the numbering and everything on the jerseys looks like a knockoff mock-up of jerseys. It doesn't look like actual MLB jerseys. It looks disgusting. It looks awful. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, we never talked about prospects. Is there any prospects that you want to talk about?
I watched the Kentucky game the other day. Dillingham looked awesome once again. I was a little... Well, one, I don't understand why he's not playing Ivisic.
Yeah.
Talking about... he looked a lot slower and immobile than I thought he was.
Ivisic?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the most athletic guy. He's just skilled. But, I mean, he's 7'2", you know? So.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know. I was like... I wonder what, like, I don't know if Calipari's been asked this or if he's answered honestly or not, but I'd be really interested to hear why he's not playing at all.
I could see it being Calipari just, like, adding a guy to the rotation at midway through the season. Is like he doesn't want to switch up what he's been doing, and they do have two good bigs.
He likes their bigs, yeah.
Bradshaw, and what's the other guy's name? Isn't it like Thierry?
He's more of like a big wing.
Yeah. But like, yeah, they got some size, so they've updated, Eric. They've updated the Tankathon mock draft. They've added Johnny Furphy to their mock.
Nice. Where is he at?
17th.
Okay.
I feel like this could be a Blazer pick. I don't know how his defense is, but he's 6'9", decently mobile, shoots 39% from three.
Yeah.
So, tying it back to earlier in the stream, talking about guys that can shoot, dribble, or pass. I mean, he can shoot. I haven't watched him enough to know the rest of his game. Earlier in the season, he wasn't playing much. Look at this. Look at this game log. He was playing like no more than 20 minutes a game. Even had a game 8 minutes, 7 minutes, right? And then all of a sudden, Oklahoma State, every game after that, plays at least 31 minutes a game and has been impactful. So you always get guys that kind of come out of nowhere at this time of year. Mm-hmm. There's going to be new names that we're going to have to talk about. Jalen Tyson, I've been seeing mocked in the first round. Eric.
Yeah.
That's one of those guys that I like, is like a late second round sleeper that moves up into the first round. There's always at least one a year. That's the guy this year.
Yeah.
That's my guy. I've seen your guy, Deron Holmes, being mocked as in some mocks in the lottery.
I don't know why he wouldn't be.
Yeah, he's. So Tankathon has him up to 27. I think he will go top 20. Chomchi up to 28. He's slowly rising. All the guys we like just rise up draft boards.
I know, man. It's so frustrating.
But it's also kind of validating, you know?
No, I know, but I just want... yeah.
Just want him on the team, you know? But, I mean, if they go before us, then at least it won't be the Blazers taking... I don't know. What player do you not like in the first round? That has, like, a first-round mock.
Ryan Dunn.
Yeah, like the Blazers will take Ryan Dunn over, you know, one of our guys. So
Klingon.
Yeah, exactly. They'll take Klingon over Deron Holmes. You know, a la Chris Murray over Leonard Miller. God, man. See, Leonard Miller can dribble and pass. He's a questionable shooter, but like that's the thing. He can dribble and pass. Like
and rebound.
And rebound. Great rebounder. And it's like a power forward, small ball center type. So it's a different type than the Jabari Walker, Tamani Kamara type. Any other players you wanted to talk about? Salon's up to 8 on Tankathon.
No, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I saw you comment on this. Cody Williams apparently isn't a shooter.
Yeah, somebody, on Twitter just saying Cody Williams is not a shooter or a shot creator. Like, what are we talking about, man? Damn. Yeah. Okay, he's a top 5 prospect, bro. What the hell?
I mean,
he doesn't shoot many,
he doesn't shoot enough.
He shoots 2 a game and makes 47% of them. Like,
he just doesn't shoot enough.
Why doesn't he shoot more threes? I don't get it. I think he'll get into the NBA and shoot more threes and obviously not shoot 47%, but...
He's just not aggressive enough.
But like if he comes in the league and is just making plays off the dribble and shooting, 36% from 3 at 6'8", like that's a good rookie. I have a lot of confidence in him. I would take him over Risache right now. Anyway, best Tankathon.
We have another donation.
Oh, really? Let's see here. Joe Cronin, $5 donation, says, "Hi, I'm Joe Cronin, GM of the Portland Trailblazers. Here to answer your questions live. Ask away about the team trade strategy or anything Blazers." Eric, what do you want to ask Joe Cronin?
I want to ask him what name his first 2 donations were under, because this says it's his 3rd donation.
That's funny. We don't respect Joe Cronin around these parts. How do you... Chat, you're wildin'. You're funny. How many points did Scoot have in the rookie game? He had 10. Leading scorer. Apparently got re-aggravated an injury that he already had in the rookie game because, of course.
But then practiced a few days later and was fine, and then started again.
Man.
No, Blockboy's not donating.
Blockboy will never be in here again. Unless Eric, we fire Chauncey Billups and hire Carmelo Anthony as head coach.
If you, is he still blocked or no?
On Twitter?
No, on here.
I don't know, dude. I don't think so.
Just made AJ's night by mentioning Carmelo Anthony. I would bet someone $100 that I could get Blockboy to come in here.
No, I will pay you $100. Get him in here. I don't want him in here, man. Let's. Do you talk to him?
No, but I bet I could get him to come.
The good old days, man. The good old days of the Carmelo Anthony stands. I kind of, you know what? I kind of miss how annoyed I used to be with Melo stands. There was something to it, you know? Like,
I mean, they're blindly loyal to him, like some people seem to be to Jody and Joe right now. I don't know.
yeah. But at least it was to a guy that actually did something with his career. Carter says they brought a bit of spice to the streams. And that they did. That they did. Yeah, like, I was watching back highlights of... It was like Blazers Rockets. It was just a random game, but it was like when we had Stauskas and Turner and Aminu, man, and it's like... Just feel... Obviously, it is a completely different team, but man, like, the connection between me and the Blazers feels different now than it did back then. I'm still, like, a big fan, but just... They were actually good, you know what I mean? They actually, like, competed and played hard, and, like... I was just remembering what it was like for the Blazers to be a competent team.
I don't think fandom's different. It's just obviously the expectations for the team is different.
Yeah.
So
I kind of missed it, man. I missed it.
Taylor said how the conversations go to people to say Melo stole buckets, stop disrespecting him. Basically, you could not say anything bad about Melo. Like, you could be like, we need him to shoot better than 4 for 16 from the field, and people would be like, he has to take those shots. Like, like, look at his plus minus. How come you didn't mention plus minus this game, Tori? You do every time it's negative, but not when it's positive.
The thing is I would always say when I mention, like, plus minus, like, you can't read much into plus minus for a single game, but he is a minus 12 for those of you that care about it. And then, like, yeah, if it was a positive, people would act like I acted like plus minus was the biggest stat in the world. I don't know. It was you couldn't really have a conversation with them. Anything that wasn't glowing praise of Melo was hate, and, like, basically it was a screw you attitude from Melo stands towards anyone that didn't have glowing praise for Melo. So JD says, missed the argument with the Stotts fence apologist. Forgot his name, but it starts with a P. You're talking about Portlandia?
Yeah, pretty much, Taylor.
If you disagree with us in our chat consistently, you can make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Gray Hughes.
I feel like people do that on purpose.
Yeah, maybe.
So, Tori, what do you think about the media actively now bashing potential other owners and trying to...
I had a tweet about it that sums up how I feel. But you can't bash other owners to defend Jody because Jody has skeletons in her closet. Especially when it's like, oh, this potential owner voted for this political party. Like, Jody has actual skeletons in her closet. So you can't defend. You can't. It's just silly. But you know what I mean? Like, they'll make something political and criticize something based on, like, what political party, Phil Knight voted for. They'll never, ever talk about the skeletons that Jody has in her closet, though. Well, yeah, maybe they did. Maybe I shouldn't say never, but you know what I mean? It just feels like it's just slanted to defend Jody by criticizing other potential owners.
I bet you they mentioned it, like, before she was owner, or, like, early on in her ownership, and now they'll point to that, like, I did cover it back then.
Yeah.
But, so, there's a couple things. Okay, one is Phil Knight's age. For those that don't know, when it came out that Phil had offered, which was a lowball offer, $2 million or whatever it was, $2 billion, sorry. There was this, the plan allegedly was that there was a guy who was, I forget his name, but he was part of the ownership group of the Dodgers, and he's a younger guy. I think he's in his late 40s or something. and that he would be like a co-owner and be groomed to take over when Phil Knight couldn't or passed away or whatever. And so they had a plan in place for that already. So that part of it's out. And unfortunately, I mean, rich people want to stay rich, so they're going to, a lot of them, I mean, there's exceptions, of course, but a lot of them are going to vote for the party that doesn't want to tax them, and to keep as much of their money as possible. So, I don't know, like, why don't they talk about who Jody's donated to? I don't know. She might be donated to the same people.
Exactly. A lot of billionaires will donate to both political parties.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm trying to blank, but who's the Oracle guy that was like interested in buying the Blazers?
I don't remember.
He's like super rich too, but like he's also like spreads like QAnon on conspiracies.
Yeah,
and
I mean, at
like
some
that.
point it's like something that I don't like, you know what I mean? But if it's just donating to, like Larry Ellison,
Yeah, see, it's different
when
if
it comes
you're,
to
like,
somebody that's
outspoken about it.
like if you donate, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into politics.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
I'm completely fine with Phil Knight. Like, it's hard to find a billionaire that doesn't have something that you can easily criticize, whether it's what political party they like or the skeletons they have in their closet or this or that. Like, it's really hard. If we could get the perfect billionaire owner that's from Portland and loves the city and is just absolutely perfect, great. But that owner doesn't exist. It's not out there. Like, Phil Knight is as close as you can get to that.
And just so people know, so Phil, I guess, during Oregon's last governor election, was paying millions of dollars to the independent candidate to keep running, so it would take votes away from Kotek, the current, or the one who ended up winning, the Democratic nominee, because he wanted the Republican nominee to win. And he's also, obviously Republican or whatever, but I mean, like, he's not, I don't know, he doesn't flaunt it or like talk about stuff, like, and it makes it different, I think. I don't know.
Like, I legitimately don't care that he's Republican or Democrat. Like, I legitimately do not care.
Right. Yeah.
In regards to him being the owner of the Portland Trail Blazers, I do not care.
Yeah, the only thing is, I mean, like, he tried to, like, buy the election, basically, in Oregon. I mean, you can say maybe that's morally wrong, but...
I mean, any billionaire that donates has some leverage over an election because...
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's political finance, so... And where does political financing come from?
Yeah.
That's just the way the whole system is set up in the first place, so...
The whole system is stupid, anyway, but yeah, I mean... Yeah. And it makes sense why a rich white person would want rich white people to be in charge or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I'm not saying that makes it right or not.
I don't like saying that, but yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna go too much deeper into it. I don't care I don't care about his political leanings.
Yeah.
I do not care. And the owner of the Portland Trail Blazers, it's the owner of the Portland Trail Blazers. He's not running for public office. So, anyway, that's how I feel. Like, anyway.
just the idea that you would like start to slander a potential owner while the current owner has issues. Yeah, it's weird to me. Like, what are you doing?
It just feels slanted. See, like, that's the thing is media guys have said, like, they've never talked to Jody because she doesn't, like, talk to anyone, this or that. But, man, it just, everything is so slanted in favor of this organization, whether it's the GM or the coach or ownership. And it's like, I've been talking about it, and I hope that some people are starting to realize that, because there's been a bunch of examples, and there's just another example today, just a random tweet criticizing Phil Knight. Like, what are we doing? And it just feels slanted towards, Jody should be the owner, not Phil Knight.
Well, yeah, and then, like, a few weeks ago there was that, oh, it's sexist if you hate Jody or want her out. Like, what is this narrative going on? It's so weird.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are worse owners than Jody that have been, we talked about it a little bit. There have been much worse owners than Jody for various reasons.
Yeah.
Donald Sterling is one of them. He was a man. The criticism for Jody isn't anything to do with gender or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Never would criticize somebody based on anything like that. I'm the one that was sitting here telling people it was ridiculous for people to criticize Chet Holmgren as a prospect because white American-born big men don't pan out in the league. You don't analyze an owner or a basketball player or a GM or people in sports based on the color of their skin or their gender. I could not care less at all, because they have a body of work. That's what I'm going to judge, their body of work. Mm. That's what defines their job, is their body of work and the work that they do. So it's just ridiculous the way some of the narratives get taken. And that's exactly why I don't care about Phil Knight's political leanings if he becomes owner, because he's becoming the owner of the Portland Trailblazers, not the president of the United States. So it's very simple. I don't get it.
Connor has a great question that I'd like to know the answer to that. Man, I think it was Connor.
Yeah, was it Connor?
I don't remember who. I can't find it now. But someone said, I wonder how fast those tweets would get deleted if Phil Knight actually bought the team.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Because here's the thing. If Phil Knight buys the team, gets a new GM, and the GM is like cool with all the media people, they're going to be more favorable towards that GM. If the GM is like Neil Olshey and just like doesn't give them the time of day, they're going to be more critical. There is clearly some element of bias towards the media coverage of the general manager and owner of this team. There is clearly some element of bias. Whether you want to argue it's not that biased or it's extremely biased, fine by me. But I think it's ludicrous to sit here and say that there's no bias. Yeah, they cover this team with no bias. I don't see how anyone could say that. Unless you just are super optimistic and therefore agree with all the organization's talking points. But at that point, if you agree with literally everything regarding the organization and all the talking points that they want pushed forth, then what is that? I don't know, man. So, shout out to MGJJ123 with a $5 donation. Says, thank you both for your hard work and insight. Thank you, MG.
Yes,
appreciate you. Dro says, I want y'all in there asking questions and pushing real info with facts. If we got media credentials, I'd almost want to just get a third person to put in there than one of us, honestly.
Yeah.
Put Rich in there. Rich, if we get credentials, you're going to
Sorry, you had to move.
Ask Joe Cronin. I want Rich to be able to ask Joe Cronin questions. Oh man, I could just picture Rich asking the funniest sarcastic questions.
I could see Rich like
That
asking him in a way that's like exactly like Danny or something, like doing an impersonation of Danny asking a question and like.
Oh man. I'm sure Rich could come up with a really good video idea off this, man. With all his impersonations. Wes says, I want Stephen Vaughn. Stephen was at Media Day, but wasn't, like, asking questions. He just got to show up, so. Hey, don't be hating on Stephen, man. Stephen's my guy. Some of you are too mean to Stephen. Stephen's the only media guy that's shown us respect. At all. So, and yes, he is a media guy because he works radio. Don't let him tell you he's not. Rich said Steven's fun. He is fun, man. He is fun. He's the reason I was able to start writing for 750. Like, you know, nobody's gone their way to do anything for me covering the team. But, like, he kind of did. So, shout out to him. Like, that's cool. And we don't agree on much, but he's able to agree respectfully more so than pretty much anyone else I've, like, debated with a lot on the team. You know? Like, me and you agree on almost everything, Eric. So, like, you know, we don't debate on much. As far as, like, people that disagree with me on a lot, Steven's pretty cool about it, so. Chase McGraw says, Blazers Uprise almost at 10k subs. Yeah, we are. We're close. We're close. We're kind of spinning the tires, unfortunately. It's going to be hard. But. Tori, thoughts on video today? Put some stuff in there just for you today. Dude, your video was super funny, Rich. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Rich's video, we're going to end the stream here in a couple of minutes. But Rich dropped a great video that was like a PSA from the Portland Trailblazers. It was hilarious. You can check out his channel, Rip City Retro. Go subscribe. He drops hilarious stuff. So I loved it, Rich. Good job, man.
It might have been more genius than his Christmas album.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Phenomenal stuff. Can we end with you watching it? LOL. Would love to see your commentary. Okay. Let's do that. And then we'll wrap up the stream. We will watch the... Although Eric can't hear it, though. So I feel like it's just me watching it and not Eric. I don't know. I'd rather tell people to go to your channel to watch it so they go and subscribe to you and like leave a like on Rich's video, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Next time you drop a video like that, let me know so I don't watch it. I will hop in a voice call and watch it with you. That would be awesome. I would gladly do that. Like before ever watching the video. So just let me know. But I'd rather people go check out Rip City Retro. Click on Rich's channel name. Actually, let me go grab Rich's channel name. Let me plug it in the chat. I'll also put it in the description if you're watching this back after the fact. I want to get you to it. It'd be your own work, but I want to help you get to 1,000 subs, Rich, because you're getting pretty close. Rich
texted me the video this morning. I was working the middle of a grocery store, just cracking up laughing if people were looking at me funny.
I watched the full length, Rich. Yeah. Yeah. I watched the full length. Rip City Retro, top of the description. This postgame show has been sponsored by Rip City Retro. There you guys go. Go subscribe. He's great. Taylor says I can't give him any likes until he denounces the propaganda song Silent Aiton. Anyway, we're going to be live again on Sunday. The Blazers take on the Charlotte Hornets. They're a game and a half behind them in the tank race. So we'll see if they can get a half game back, Eric. That would be a pretty monumental loss. Half a game back. If they lose the next game against Charlotte, they'll be tied in the win column.
Let's go.
Tied in the win column. Somehow. Somehow, despite being locked into fifth, they might get fourth. Yes, Connor, you can do that. I don't know how many people know you can do that. Hornets on a 4-game winning streak. They were, and then they lost today. They lost today to the Golden State Warriors.
The undefeated Grant Williams era is over.
Hey, I got faith that we can pass them in the tank race because they have been playing better basketball, man. They didn't have LaMelo today, right? So, man, the Western Conference standings are insane. You got 1.5 games separating first and fourth, and then you got like a 4-game drop off to fifth, and then you got 1 game separating fifth from eighth. Right now, Phoenix is in eighth at 33-24. But they're only 6.5 games back of first. Like, if Minnesota falls apart for like a 12 to 15 game stretch and plays like last year's Minnesota for whatever reason, like they could hypothetically fall to the play-in. I don't think it's likely at all, but 6.5 games separate 7th and 8th from first. I mean, there's 27, 28 games left for these teams. Seen crazier things, man.
Going into tonight, Portland had the 6th toughest schedule remaining, and Charlotte had 7th toughest.
How many wins do you think we'll have at the end of the season? We have 27 games left.
21?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 22.
Yeah. I mean, 22 immediately jumped to my mind, and then I was like, 7 games is a lot.
Yeah. But here's the thing, if we win 22 games, we're losing 60.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the cutoff. Are we going to lose 60 games or not this year? We have to go 8-19.
At this point, go for 60, right?
I know. That's our worst record since when?
05, 06.
How many wins did we have that year?
21? 21, I think.
I'll look it up.
That's off the top of my head. Oh, no.
Yeah, 21-61.
Let's go.
Will we beat that? Will we beat that? Our next... Okay, in 1972... I can't talk. In 1972...
1917?
Yeah, 1970. In 1972 to 1973, we were also 21-61, okay? That's tied for second worst season in Blazers history. The worst season in Blazers history was 1971 to 1972, where we were 18-64. That was the second year in franchise history.
Yeah.
The second year. So...
And third year, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could beat that. It won't happen, though. It won't happen. We'd have to go 2-25 the rest of the year? It would take some generational tanking.
The Detroit Pistons earlier this season.
Yeah. But it's crazy because, yeah, we were 18 and 64, then we were 21 and 61, then we were 27 and 55, 38 and 44, 37 and 45. Had never made the playoffs in our franchise history. And then the following year, 49 and 33, and we win the NBA Finals. Yeah. In the first year we ever made the playoffs. And then since then, we've made the playoffs a ton and never won anything. So, brutal stuff.
Well, that following season, we were 50 and 10 and rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man. I'm looking through all these seasons right now. Yeah, I made 2 more finals. How many times have we lost the conference finals?
2099.
2099?
2000 and 1999. 91. Is that it? Just 3?
91.
90,
Yeah, 91, 99, 2000, 2019.
Yeah, 20. Obviously, 2019 as well. 4 times.
Yeah.
I was trying to think like prior to the Dame era for some.
The most times we've missed the playoffs in a row since.
He said lose in the Western Conference Finals, not win. Rich
lose. Since winning the championship, right? Because like the first 6 years of the Blazers franchise, we didn't make the playoffs. But since then, the most seasons in a row we've missed the playoffs is 5.
Yeah.
We're going on year 3.
Well, we made the playoffs like 21 years in a row, I think, and 26 out of 27.
Yeah.
Rich and I are doing a video soon on Blazer rebuilds and how it's gone and stuff, so I did a lot of this research recently.
The most seasons in a row where we've been under 500 since winning the championship is 3.
That's almost 50 years.
Yeah. This is going to be season number 3, Eric.
Yep.
So, assuming next year we're also going to be below 500, this is going to be the worst stretch in 50 years.
Since we were an expansion team.
Yeah. So, because, we missed the playoffs 5 years in a row from 2003, 2004 season to 2007, 2008. But in 2003, 2004, we were 41 and 41. We were 500, 10th in the West. Same exact thing in 2007, 2008. 41 and 41, 10th in the West. So, man. It's a rebuild, man. It's a rebuild. But, 2 of those seasons, we had the greatest player in franchise history. Just putting it in this context, I mean, just makes me laugh at all the praise.
Rich.
We are addicted to winning, borderline anxious to push our chips in. Man. I mean, this really is what it is, just, a Blazer hat. Somebody put a Blazer hat on this. I could, but I don't feel like it. This really is what it is.
I've seen the Blazer hat on there.
Yeah, I didn't find it on Google Images. So, anyway, start our channel at the perfect time, Eric. It started at the perfect time. But we're going to keep on chugging over the last 27 games. We got a game on Sunday, got a game on Tuesday, then we have a couple days off. We'll see how Charlotte goes. And, got some new things planned for future post-game shows, so stay tuned for those. I was going to work on them a little bit more over the All-Star break, but I kind of just enjoyed the All-Star break. I kind of just enjoyed it. I just relaxed. It was fun. It was nice. It was great. So, anyway, anything else, Eric?
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Hope you all have a good weekend. Hope to catch you Sunday night for that stream. And then once again, go check out Rich's video. It's hilarious.
Yep, link in the description for Rich's channel. That Sunday game is a 6 p.m. Pacific time tip-off against Charlotte. So post-game show going live approximately 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. Hopefully we can catch you with that. And with that being said, we're out of here. The Blazers lose to the Nuggets 127-112. We'll see when Scoot Henderson plays again, or if there is an update at some point with his adductor injury. We love adductor injuries here in Portland. Anyway, we're out of here. We'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.